You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in Pleasant, upside down Northport, Florida. Quick update. If you haven't filled out your FEMA paperwork, if you haven't done anything with insurance companies, please check out the Facebook on City Hall. We've got a FEMA center set up at STC at 75 and Toledo Blade. You'll take Cranberry right off of Toledo Blade to get to the Shannon Staub Library or STC. You can do it there. You can go to the mall. I believe that RJ at the radio station is working with the Chamber of Commerce here in Northport, and he's done over 200 applications already by himself. And that was I think I got the update on Saturday that he had done over 200. So I can't imagine where he's at in the process now. Just so you know, been out on the roads. A lot of the roads that were still wet are now dry. Things are looking back to normal as far as the road wear goes. Please be careful along the edges of the road. We're still experiencing damage because anytime you put water underneath our roads and sand is underneath there, we get the mushiness. So if you go off the side of the road, it's not going to be the same as normal. You may go deeper than you anticipate. So be very, very careful. Also, people need to slow down. I keep saying it every week. Please slow down. Right now, there's no reason to be in a crisis mode. You can slow down, take your time, get home safe, and really just protect your loved ones and everyone else's loved ones, and take a deep breath, because we all need to relax a little bit and realize that we've been through a hypersensitive time frame, and sometimes tapping your brakes and slowing your car down is equally as good as slowing yourself down and accomplishing more. I've got a very special guest in the house, his first time on air with me. Hopefully not his last. At some point in the near future, who knows? We'll see how it all goes. But I've got Victor in the house. But Victor, I want you to formally introduce yourself and why you're on my show today.
Thank you, John. And first of all, I want to thank to you and this radio station for doing what it's needed to help our community and people who were affected deeply by the Hurricane Ian. I am in this race for the same reason as you are on this show, to help our community, every single citizen in the years to come, to realize their stable future. And I'm an engineer by profession. My accent is from Romania, and most of my professional life, I spent it in big automotive companies here in the States. For then, previously was Robert Bosch Corporation. I approach my life as an American citizen, glad that I achieved part of the American dream. I am here to contribute my fiscal responsibility, my mind of engineer to solving problem, and add value to the city. I have been involved since day one in the problems of different communities throughout the city back in 2017. And I participated at many commission meetings trying to bring novel ideas that will make us all better. The same very reason is why I'm running for this, and together we can pull the difficult moments that our city goes through right now by energizing certain changes in the way we approach difficult situation and what the people real needs are. So with that being said, if there are any other questions regarding my background, as I have been living in two political different systems, and everything in my DNA is against a government which dictates to the people. I have been subjected to the communist oppression, and I want our government to represent the responsible people that the Constitution has asked to be of the people. Thank you, and I'm ready to take any questions from now on.
Well, I think I'm going to start out with the first one, which is when I interviewed your competition, the first thing that he spoke of was de-annexation. Can you address de-annexation and where you stand on that issue?
So my opponent and I, we were both at the beginning on the early phasing of the aftermath after 2019 increase of taxation of 30%. So basically, the origin of that was that the government taxed out the citizen. So that's the source of that irresponsibility. Where we are today, there is a West Villages for Responsible Government, and they do whatever they are. I am personally here to make our government responsible as long as I live on this earth. So if you solve the cause which creates a problem, then you remove any problems technically. So I'm here to solve the irresponsibility which generated this. So that should actually eliminate the need of other actions.
Well, I want to be a little more direct. Are you for it or against it?
I am here to tell the people that I will support our interests of the city as are presented to us. I am not siding with one side versus the other. No, because I'm very clear that I'm here to represent every citizen, not only parts of the city. That's why we are voting completely citywide, because I am not to represent one action versus the other.
Well, your opponent has come out and clearly stated he is 100% against it. And are you willing to state the same thing, or are you just going to stay quiet and not represent either side?
So no, when the facts are presented, and this issue has been dragging there for 3 years. I will be there for all this year to fight for the responsible government, which should eliminate any other need. It could be a referendum, but people feel, and my opponent even stated that the people might not vote. So if we are eliminating the causes, that's what I'm an engineer. I go to the root cause. Let's eliminate the root cause which caused the disease, and then move forward. So that's the way I approach it. And the doctor will do the same thing like an engineer, remove the cancer or remove the part which is creating the problem.
So if you were removing the cancer, as you stated, with that part of it, can you explain what the cancer is? Because I was here, and I don't consider my vote years ago when we annexed in, and nobody else wanted that project. We took it on as citizens and we voted yes. So is that the cancer, is where we voted yes?
I used the wrong word. I wouldn't even call it that. It came, inappropriately. What I would consider is, what I think the problem was the irresponsible governance by making decisions which are not responsible. And I'm going to go to this situation from now on. We have to make the responsible decision to move forward, even in an aftermath of EN. That's what I'm looking. It is responsibility is not one facet. It's multiple. It's all the facets of the business. We are in the business of the people.
And I know you've been in, how long have you been in Northport?
Well, I have been longer than my opponent, about actually almost a year. I have been involved since I pleaded for the interests of the people starting in July 2017, and various issues, from traffic, from zoning, and it's not only my neighborhood, it was across the city virtually. And also for the city charter, to direct us more stable towards future. So I have a very good understanding of the city. I know the city very well, and it's the time for me to step in and put it on the right direction. That's a responsibility, because it's a whole effort. It's not one person cannot do everything.
So what are your top three things as a commissioner that you would like to accomplish by your election?
First of it, I would like to accomplish redirecting the resources to the real infrastructure needs. And we have seen that the safety of our people, our neighborhoods, our streets, has been impacted by the aging infrastructure which we have, and specifically the flood control structures, which were estimated about 4 years ago to cost the city about $35 million. In today's dollars, probably it's approaching 50 millions. So focusing our resources there instead of other parts. The flood control structure, bridges. We have seen bridges which are caving in because of aging and erosion. The traffic, specifically the evacuation routes, such that Price Boulevard could become one if we have 4 lanes, but it was the need existing there for quite some time. So infrastructure needs have to take priority right now. Find the resources and refocus the energy of the staff, of the commissioner, to bring the resources rather than spending money on all kinds of feasibility, or not feasibility, I would call it consultant study for One Mineral Springs. I think that should be put on the back burner. And if the city has resources to spend $30 million in the future, which I don't think that they will be there, I think that kind of reshuffling of the resources has to be there. So infrastructure. Secondly, we have to be able to provide an assessment of the city, where I have seen certain neighborhoods, such as the old part of the city, having certain issues with drainage. That's part of the infrastructure, public works as well. Another thing would be communication in time of crisis. We have seen a failure of communication, not because of the city, but the cell tower are not there. We have no electricity. We live in an age where technology, either solar power, Starlink, provides ability, which it's linked into a network, FM radio, to provide real timely data for saving lives throughout the city. Taking it further on, I was an advocate at capping certain things as discretionary expenditures, because we have seen that being done before, where certain projects went to the referendum, or people voted against, and that ended up being approved by the commissioner. If we have that kind of capping in the charter, that will help us well. But at the same time, we have to eliminate anything that impair the ability to serve our public, specifically in critical situation. Also, I think we have to look at the development code and make sure that the new developments which are being planned, consistent with the comprehensive plan, which even comprehensive plan will have to be adjusted, provides the needed motor for good jobs, better industries, not only storage facilities and small catering things, but real jobs, real good paying things that will also lessen the burden. So quality of life, it comes from all of this. Safety is the most important thing for people. Then having them an environment, jobs, and good facilities for the city as well, for services.
So I'm going to kind of go back, because I'm getting a lot of issues with the de-annexation still. I want to try to give you a way to answer the question so that people can put it to bed, because right now people are at their highest level of stress. And what we don't want to vote for is a candidate who's going to be part of our city so he can leave our city. I just want to know, well, if you feel that way, then you're against de-annexation, correct?
I am for making the city government responsible, and I think that will solve the need for the annexation again. The people will push on that direction.
All right,
But let me tell you, I did, because you are asking this many times. Look at what
I am, because you're not answering.
I think we have to look at the founding father of this country as well. If the responsible government of England would have been there, we wouldn't have de-annexed from England. The problem here is that we are living in modern times where we are good friends with England, but we are not under them because they were not turning their government to be responsible to them. There's the same driving thing which has happened here. And again, that happened because of overreaching to these people. I am here to solve those issues and work with the commissioner that we put us on track to eliminate that completely. Because, if I say that, but that's the best way I can help the city. Because
I'm actually
I can be there, and if we eliminate the cause, a referendum comes, nobody will be annexed, because people will feel that we have done our job as government. That's what is important. Because one vote doesn't mean anything. I want to help at a larger scale the interests of the city.
Yes, but let's talk about why. Let's go back and talk about England, okay? You know more about that than I, and I'll give you credit on that. But what you said was, because they didn't like it, they're ready to de-annex. They were ready to go. So are you telling me that you're part of the annexation because you want to be like England and have that situation play out? Because the rest of us, I'm a little concerned. Because
I want to be like.
Hold on.
Yeah,
I don't have to answer. Okay. I've been part of Northport for 23 years. We were part of the annexation into Northport, and I want to believe you have good intention. That's not a question, okay? But you can't give me an answer, yes or no. You're giving me fluff, and I understand you want to kind of pivot on both sides of the fence because you don't want to make a decision, but you need to make a decision so that people understand you. I don't care if it's for de-annexation or not, and you shouldn't be scared of the answer, because truthfully, if you're going to make good, hard decisions for the finances of Northport, I think this is the first one.
Well, this is the first one when I say that I believe that I can help more than my opponent to make this a situation for the city, that the annexation that we talk right now is not the subject of it should not be the subject of this election. If you want to bring the annexation in this conversation, is how we can stop the annexation. Not that Victor Dobrin at one point in time was that, because my opponent actually was part of the group, was in the same group I was. So why do you make one person?
You set that up. You set that up very nicely. How do we stop the de-annexation right now? And what are you willing to do right now, and tell people what you're willing to stand for on stopping the de-annexation?
So I will stand up and tell the commissioners when I'm elected, let's do the right things, show responsibilities, and you'll get the right answer. People will, if you are truly committed to public life and you listen to the people and you try to convince them that they are doing what is right not for one group or one neighborhood, for the whole, then is the way to convince people. Because we don't know, John, you don't know, I don't know what's going to be with the referendum. Nobody knows. I would be stupid to say, if I tell you today that I'm against the annexation and comes tomorrow a referendum and it passes, then I didn't do my job as a commissioner. That's the way I perceive it.
I see emotion. I do. I see your emotion in it, and I'm not trying to get you rattled. I'm really trying to get, because I've heard both sides. I've heard everybody talking, and I'm trying to give you a platform right now that that really sets you up to kind of maybe differentiate yourself from your opponent. And the only thing that concerns me on this side is that you have a great line. That's and a good salesman always has a great line. Okay. And anybody running for office, they have to have these answers. Okay. And I get it. I've been around a long time, just like you have. What I'm trying to figure out is if this de-annexation was going to stop, and you had your voice to stop it, I don't need fluff. What is it that makes this go away right now, according to Victor?
I think by electing Victor Dobrin in that position is the first step to stop the annexation.
And what decisions would you make to get others to engage in de-annexation?
Because people trust me. Now it's the first time it was two people from the same neighborhood. I have shown to the people where I live that I'm very responsible. I'm involved. John, I didn't run to get a title or a position. I ran here because I am grateful to my country, my adoptive country, and my citizen. I am blessed to be better off than many people and realize my dreams. Is this time of my life when I want to give back to the country, to my neighborhood first, because if we don't do it in our neighborhoods and our community, we cannot do it. So that's my message. Give me a chance. People know me in my people who have known me across, and I can give you examples. I behave the same thing. I form myself in my parents' house. I know who I am. I'm not running this for like a hypocrite. I'm telling you the way I said. But at the same time, if I were come here, I'm saying, I guess the annexation happens tomorrow. I don't think that I'm doing my job. The reason I entered this race, I'm entering this race to try to bring the things to the fruition for the city.
And I get what you're saying. The de-annexation side of it, it is kind of tied in with every other decision that you're going to make. And you say, as this goes through, you're going to make decisions based on Northport, not de-annexation. So I want to say that you've got one side of the base covered where you're saying I'll leave it to make its own mind up. But then you've got the other side of the base covered where you're saying, I don't want to leave Northport. I'm running for Northport, and I don't want Northport to de-annex. Is that where you're at?
Well, if we are successful, and this is my role as a future commissioner, to convince the other commissioner that we set in motion those plans and those actions, which will increase the confidence in our government that we are responsible government. That's the successful way to get the problem that we are talking like there is nothing else that matters right now. I mean, we should focus right now on the infrastructure and so forth, but do it responsibly, not spending and borrowing money while, to go frivolous projects versus what we need, weirs, roads and so forth. That's, you show you are a responsible government. And that's why people who started the annexation, my opponent was for the same reason. Now those things haven't gone away because we are talking about other projects which take priority about more important projects. Why do we put $3 million in repairing structures, flood control structure, and put 20 million in that? While we need that, we need $50 million for the flood controlling structure because our people are isolated by water when we have seasonal rains.
All right, so I'm going to back up just for a second because, the topic that you just talked about, that is, we have 80 miles of canals in Northport. Yes. I know that our infrastructure there has been one at a time being repaired. anywhere from $3 to $5 million per structure. Those structures did not hold, not because of the structures themselves, but because of the 24 inches of rain we had in 5 hours, and also the watershed that we got from up north at the same time, because it just expanded every possible area to beyond belief. So picking on, and I'm not picking because I'm probably as sensitive to our waterways as you are right now, but our waterways have been being addressed. And you talk about moving money, moving dollars. If we were going to go after Price Boulevard right now, and I'm going to ask you yes or no, okay, and then we'll go into how, okay. So are you for the widening of Price Boulevard, yes or no?
Yes.
Are you for 4 lanes, soft and easy, so everybody is more gracious, or are you willing to call it a boulevard and do it the right way? Yes or no?
Yes, the right way.
Okay. So the funding from that, where must that come from?
Well, we have to look in we have a rainy fund, by the way, and you know about that. So we first go where we have immediate resources. And because I've met with the city managers and the public works and everybody maybe a month and a half ago, and they gave me the phases how this will happen. So technically, everything is in place to be executed, to get quotes. So what we have to do, hopefully the 1 cent tax passes, and then we look at that where those resources are going. And I don't want to give you a recipe right now because I have to look the amount. And as the building of the road will go in phases, that's the way we should look where we should take money. But definitely we have to take it. If the 1 cent sale tax passes, then we have to look at financing or other things. But we have to stop things that people are not impacted as much as the traffic and drainage and so forth. So the way to look at it is prioritization of the needs, and then you tap those resources. That's the way to look at it. But we have to work together. The way I would do it, I would say to the public works and as well as the city manager, come back. What are the projects where we can tap in that they have less impact? Now we know that everything is good to have, but there are more important things that we need right now, and we will walk each step each year.
And you've mentioned Warm Mill Springs, and you've kind of given your opinion on that, and I'll gloss that over real quick because you may not feel as warm to Warm Mill Springs right now, and I'm not trying to make highlight or a joke about it, but sometimes we got to soften the conversation. But you're willing to pull the funds away from the Warm Mill Springs project to relocate that funding somewhere else, correct?
I'm looking at the projects which you mentioned, the widening of the Price Boulevard, and we are structured. Those are higher priority without any doubt. And just because you asked me about that, I think that when the city bought it from the county, was the intention actually later on to make money by selling it. That's what some information I received was like that. I think that the role of the government is to provide services such as safety, which is the first thing that we discussed, traffic, quality of life.
Sure.
But we are not in the, spa and resort business, and that's, I don't think that should be if we can encourage private partner to take the brunt of it, I don't know, or actually to divest it completely. I'm not trying to diminish the importance of the site or the value for certain segments, but it's not what the majority of the people of Northport need right now. So I would not spend those amount of money which were discussed in commission meetings that they are needed.
I just wanted to make sure that you knew. I'm reading some of these comments. I may not be flashing them up there, but I'm trying to blend them into the conversation, because anybody who runs for office knows that they always have the people on the other side of the fence, right? And that's why I actually was trying to get real answers out, because these are strange times right now. We haven't had a lot of conversations openly because we've had the hurricane. We've had a lot of disruption in the normal flow of business with a lot of our listening audience. What would you tell them that you would be doing differently in the state of emergency that we're in versus what I consider how great we've been handling things at City Hall? Do you see some improvements that you would like to see changed? Or do you have any frustrations right now based on that?
I heard people being frustrated. As personally, I was frustrated that I couldn't get out of my streets for a few days. That was a fact. And I heard the same thing. But one of the opportunities that exist, and I will change the attitude and apply resources, again, this is about safety, is to create, divide the city in the most vulnerable parts, which are most likely to be flooded. This is not a big thing to determine that, because we know the configuration of the canals, the altitude of each piece, and then have a plan to deploy resources. And I mentioned them before, technology resources, such that people are kept in the loop, because we can buy more boats, for example, to apply, to have people able to get out, because again, if we have 4 lanes or Price Boulevard, maybe people would be able to live faster. But there are local needs. So I will divert certain resources to create a safety network such that we have minimum water, and dry food and so forth to be given to this. And this, they can be renewed every year, because hopefully we don't have hurricanes every year. But, communication, it's, I have seen in my situation, no cell power, no internet, no electricity. There are solar powered devices. There are, as I said, there is an opportunity, and I will not even devise it myself, but work with the city staff, with the commissioners, to bring what makes sense to protect the safety of our people in such crisis. So the city has done everything it could with the resources we had, but we can move the needle forward.
So I'm going to go to William English. How do you feel about the city lowering the level of services of parks to facilitate economic development, turning them into P3s?
Well, I know one example where I would not agree to diminish, because it's one of the is Dallas White Park, for example, and John, it's part of the historical part of the city, and it is an oasis we shouldn't overdevelop there, because we have plenty of land. If you go Yorkshire that way, the issue is for economic development, because I will open that discussion, is to bring water and sewer to, Sumter, it's a smaller plot of lands there, but we have the Toledo I-75 area, which is quite wide, and some of the water is there already, but those are the focus centers, rather than taking away from the people the space that we have dedicated, and it becomes overbuilt. By the way, taking again the Dallas White Park, we don't have the road infrastructure to support such intense housing developments or activity center, and that will increase the burden. Who's going to pay for this? Is going to overtax the same people who are paying for improving the infrastructure. Or I think I was always a proponent of having per the Wilden study, which was commissioned to provide direction for the impact fees. I would have taken full value that recommendation and let the new housing development pave their way rather than taxing the existing homeowners for building new infrastructure or adding more services, because each service which it comes has to have facilities too. It's not like it's in thin air. We have to add to the public infrastructure.
So with the, I'm going to kind of go back to the flooding situation, just because it has affected our infrastructure so badly. Do you think that there's going to be funding on the federal side to get some of these things taken care of?
Definitely. I think that this is an opportunity because this has been one of the, what I read, the major 5 hurricane in Florida. And for these areas, without doubt, in modern times, and there was nothing here when probably there was a storm like this. So it's the time to use our state government, our representative in Washington, to help us with some infrastructure rebuilding funds, which definitely could help us specifically for the weir structure, from that, but for other needs as well.
So do you feel like one of the first things, and it's kind of hard to layer all these things because you have to have your infrastructure moving for services itself, but we've run into a situation where we've now found ourselves with infrastructures that are compromised beyond belief, with our waterways, 80 miles of canals not having controls, because of the infrastructures not failing but being widened by the pressure of the water. We look at these infrastructures that were put in for $3 to $5 million, and yes, while they failed because now they're wider. It wasn't because the structure themselves failed, but I would think that on a federal side of things, that our infrastructure there has to be really analyzed hard, because we get the brunt of what's coming from up north.
Correct. So you are very right on that. It's very tough one. As an engineer, we say let's not put band-aids. So we always plan. And you asked me yes, no question about doing the right thing for the 4 lanes, boulevard. The same thing pertains in this situation, because we have to have a safety margin and everything. That's the principle of designing anything from the engineering point. You don't design now for what was 50 years ago. We design to exceed what we have faced right now. So, we know what kind of flood levels we had. We have to protect for higher than that. So when we invest, it was going to cost us more, but in the long term, it's going to pay off. So yes, doing the right thing first time, it's always the safer and the more economical in the long term.
Do you think we're going to have some frustrations out there with within the city workers at Public Works, just because it's, thank God we're at the end of rainy season. We still have about 30 days left, maybe less, but hopefully we won't get as much rain, because we're controlling the flow. I mean, we had every gate open to 100%. We had already dropped the water table or water level down 14 inches to compensate for what we were going to get. Public Works did an amazing job preemptively for a storm that we tried to be ready for, that wiped out 3 or 4 of our levees. With that, do you feel like the city workers themselves, the city manager has done a great job identifying things and trying to keep things structured so that things get taken care of in a quick time?
John, I think that they've done everything they could under present circumstances. I think there is a buildup of history, and coming from the engineering side, anything can be modeled. You don't have to be, the highest model. You see, even the weather has the European and the American model, but we have to start more analytically looking at the situation and understand how our system works. It's a system, as you said, 80 miles of canals and structures, but they've done the right thing. I remember reading 2 days in advance of the end that they open everything, so we don't get into a situation, a flooding situation. So they've done everything. So I don't want to blame, but I see the opportunity that we can look now from system point of view, what can we do more? Yeah, and in some things might cost us money, but again, it becomes, this is the most important because I want to show you, you probably have seen this book. Have you seen this book?
I have not.
Okay, The Swamp Peddlers. It's the way the city and Punta, and it's a very good book. I recommend it everybody, and talks a lot about Northport. What happened in this area, there were swamps, as was in Coral Springs. It was General Development Corporation. That's why we ended up with 80 miles of canals. And we are living in a very low spot. And if we don't have money, I mean, they wanted to flood the whole city, 70,000 lots, and get out and make more money. But they didn't put enough thought what will happen when all these are overbuilt and so forth. And they cannot predict the weather either. So we are paying now the price for how the city was set up as not, very robust against flooding. So we are suffering. But this is a very good book which gives the history of many other things, because our city lacked also the economic land development for having good companies, commercial center, and so forth. Was mostly designed as a bedroom community. Now we are a city, and we have to have water to those places where we want to attract. If we want to attract world-class companies, but I will be happy with medium-sized companies which produce lots of equipment that we need in this country, medical and so forth, that can add value to our city and help we have the youngest population in the county. Yeah, we have the highest population. We are the biggest city in the one of the 5 cities in by land size in Florida. So it's definitely, we have to approach the economic development from having what it needs to attract, because it's pure speculation to say, well, come and you'll figure it out. No, we have to have the infrastructure first.
So I'm kind of gonna wrap the de-annexation back into this conversation just for a second. I don't want to hammer it, but I kind of want to get your feel, because we're talking about all these changes and all these things that need to be added in, and there definitely is going to be possibly some tax changes. But let's add one little caveat to it. If let's say that Northport, Welland Park de-annexes out of Northport and into Sarasota County. Most people are confused by their address, and they consider it Venice because they have a mailing address. I got to tell you, y'all could change your address to Northport, and you're still going to get your mail. Everybody up there you're a brilliant guy. I know that you know better than to assume that you're attached to Venice when they don't butt up against each other. So that's a given. So I don't want to make high or lows of that, but what I want to talk about is if that gets stripped away, that's tax dollars that you're talking about, revenue into Northport. Now that's gone. Where are these other projects, and where does our tax dollars come from now? If you eliminate what's considered or being touted as the downtown image.
Well, again, as I stated a few times, I'm going to make everything I can to work and convince all the commissioners that we have to apply policies which are more responsible. And when I say responsible, in this situation, fiscally responsible. As I mentioned, we have these development centers, which we will get through and we'll get them done. You put a hypothetical situation, we have to say it's a possibility, because I'm not, you and I, we cannot decide the annexation. But let's assume that the scenario you propose becomes a reality. Between now and then, there will be years and years. This is not going to happen tomorrow. But what I cannot value, and I kept saying I can remove the causes of that, is to look what kind of businesses, what kind of taxes we can bring with those businesses. And even I was looking on the map, although If you go on East Price Boulevard in Yorkshire, that easternmost side of the city, it's kind of still a forest, because there are streets, but there are no houses, or if there are very, 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 very low density. But we have there another opportunity if, for example, the city commission and the Charlotte County Commission, they decided, to pursue with the Department of Transportation to open that intersection. So it's a good chunk of land there that we can add a revenue. The more we do for preparing that and engaging, bringing that in, I don't think that we'll see any tax increases if we are smart enough not to go and apply the money where we don't need, and we discuss certain projects where I personally don't think that we should fund them. Rather, putting the money, maybe divest in certain things that we don't need, and bringing those revenues, developing the infrastructure. We have the tax revenue. I want to make the city sustainable, and that's what General Development Corporation left us with a legacy. That's all.
All right. So you're really talking economic development.
Correct.
And to change our city.
To change our tax revenue streams. Correct.
I agree with that. We've all been fighting for that for 23 years. Okay.
But we have to, I understand, but we have to do more inroads. I mean, that's the primary. I mean,
I don't think that you'll find anybody out there that's going to agree with you on what we need to do to change that, and it would take the pressure off. But as a city commissioner, I've known a lot of you over a lot of years, and everybody says the same thing. As an individual, and I know everybody tries to do certain things, but you're talking about one of a total of 5. Okay, how would you change the economic development side right now for Northport if we're not going to lose Welland Park, which we know is part of Northport? Okay, that also encompasses what we spent money on with bringing economic development in with the Atlanta Braves. Okay, so now we give that away. We're giving away revenue. And you want to bring economic development in, that is economic development. And I know that's how we lowered taxes. If you don't stick with the plan of developing that area and reducing the revenue there, or the tax revenue, and you want to focus it somewhere else, is that the goal? Or I'm just trying to figure out if that, and I'm trying to listen to what you're saying.
Yeah.
And kind of apply it.
You asked me the hypothetical situation.
Oh no, it is hypothetical only for one reason, is that it hasn't had a decision made, and you're not picking a side. So I'm trying to give the hypothetical question actually could be very true.
So what I picked, I picked up the winning side, because I believe that I can work with commissioner and administration to put the policies that will keep the people trusting the city and remaining at the city. That's what I commit. I cannot vote in a referendum to maintain it. You know that. I don't have thousands of votes, but what I can do as a commissioner. And now you are asking me, that's why I said you referred to a hypothetical situation. Well, again, I cannot eliminate the fact that a few $1 million will be going away, but what I can do, I can prepare, start first day when I get in office, focus on the infrastructure and how we can have the motor of the economic growth, going proper propulsion of our taxes, the stream of revenue that you said has been tried many times. But again, John, if we don't have the water and sewer, Rome had it, yeah, and they attracted businesses. We have to have that. We cannot sell ourselves. That's the most. So if we get funds, any funds, from other governmental agency, I think that we have to focus on that, because we cannot sell the land without that. And by the way, economic development is not like buying 5 acres of, a few plots. It's to use what we already have. We have big chunks, as I said. Yorkshire is, but that is the long term. Is not. But we have already the big ones that I mentioned, Sumter and Toledo, where I think that if done right, it brings us a tremendous source of revenues there.
Okay, and I get it. What would you do differently to change the economic stance that we have now, the position that's there? How would you change that? How would you work with other candidates? And I got to tell you, I'm a huge fan of our city manager. I think he's done a great job. Not that we haven't had it in the past, but a great job of repositioning thought processes and energy within the walls of City Hall. And do you feel the same way on that? First off, yes or no?
I think looking at the problem solving, I heard the green belt and so forth, this is the right approach to understand. If we don't understand the situation, how can we plan what we want to do? Because we will not, you have to link A with Z with a plan. So that's what he's trying to understand, the A, and then do the Z. Because, having the root causes understood, why are we suffering? Why were we not successful? Taking the economic development, what were the impediments? Why didn't we are talking about this for years, correct?
Yeah.
And why? Well, we mentioned today the infrastructure, the water, sewer was not there. Why didn't we get that? Well, we have to see, how did we plan for that, and so forth. Why did we have the funds, and so forth? But you go one after, you ask all the question, and then it's very clear what we have to do. And that's a problem-solving technique that we have to apply.
And I appreciate your answers. I'm going to go off the air here in a minute on the radio. Would you like to stay on a few extra minutes so I can get some of these other questions out?
Sure. I mean, I'm here to. I'm in this race to win and to serve the city to my best ability. I have no personal goals. I am not for creating the only one term, and I don't want to mention it. I didn't enter this race for the annexation, and that has to go away from everybody's mind. I am here to make the citizens successful, to answer to their needs. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm spending my money, my effort, because I believe in what I do.
Sure, and I believe you. I've heard both sides of the fence on everybody out there. For some reason, as a radio show host, I get to smile a lot and just shake my head. And you know what? I love it. I love the fact that people are listening, people are engaged. I want them to share the video. I want them to have their opinion on both sides, because it doesn't. At the end of the day, it's America. It's people are going to say what they're going to say. They're going to do what they're going to do. But the importance is to watch back and see if like-mindedness is in the same realm. I appreciate your time, and I'm kind of dragging this out for a minute so I can go off the air so I can get back in and
sure.
Put some of these questions up. But the listening audience out there on the radio, if you want to join us on Facebook, it's Realtalk 97.5 on Facebook. Find us, share the video. I'm going to sign off on the radio right now, so the listening audience on Facebook, stay tight. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM saying thanks for listening in and have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. So you listening audience out there on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, we're going to stay on a few more minutes. I did not ask Victor to do this preemptively. I asked him just a few minutes ago, and I really want to extend my thank you for that. You've taken the questions, you've answered questions. The mute. Let's see. I'm going to find one out here. And Debbie McDowell put a statement up there, and it's a long one. I haven't read it all the way, but it says, let's see, not that one. That was somebody responded to hers. I saw.
I didn't see the question, but if you read it, I
That
will.
was a statement. It wasn't a really question.
Oh, okay.
I was
Yeah, I
trying to
didn't.
find the question. Because people are actually answering the questions for you that are out there.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's the way I want to work with the citizen. It's a two-way street, by the way. I will take the input. You know,
Absolutely, absolutely. And just so you know, if you're asking questions, and I don't flash your question up there, it may be on a different feed, and I'm only seeing and being able to put up what I have to do. Justin Cody Willis, you're gonna have to educate me on this one because I don't know what WV4R means.
Oh, West Villages for responsible, and it says government technically. Well, I am not in any quality a member in any way. I was part of the. I never held any uh, titles or leadership position. I was as my opponent, and he was up to uh, February. So he was about 5 months, and then there was some discussion which. I don't want to open them right now because the developers try to influence us. So there was other interest why he subtracted from that group. I have no, I'm not member of anything there. So I, if I come as city commissioner, I am a citizen elected by the citizen to do the right thing. I'm not member of WVRG leadership or anything. I don't pledge allegiance to any uh, nobody did. Phil didn't, and my opponent didn't. So that's all.
So I'll put this next one up, and this is from a Facebook user. Both candidates enjoy well in life. Uh, how do you both separate or each separate the difference? And what have each of you done to speak for the city of Northport moving forward?
Well, I served for the city. I was the chair of the Water Utilities Advisory Board for 2 years. As I mentioned earlier, I have been engaged in major uh, actions of the city, not only fiscally, but also when it mattered for the people. And I mentioned rezoning issues. I mentioned preservation of open space, habitats which are water which is in potable water comes from Miyakachi River, so that's an important asset, Miyakahachi Creek, that we have to protect the way we develop the land around it, because what you put in you get out. I mean, you cannot clean the water 100% unless you do reverse osmosis. So my implication in the city, if you go onto my Facebook, you'll see the diversity of topics, but also the full length I was here. And I'm committed to do that regardless what happens. Wherever I am, I'm getting involved because this is my belief as a citizen. I tell people if we cannot change our city, how can we change the county or the state? It's impossible. Here is the most impact we can do, and I encourage everybody to get involved, go and speak at the commission meetings, bring your input in, and that's the way I have personally helped my community here, but also the city when I spoke to the commissions.
So with everything, I want to kind of highlight again, just for the listening audience, you've got the kind of like shifting of funds away from Warm Mill Springs and I'm not saying that's like a goal instantly, but that's one of the topics and that you would want to do right now in running. Do you feel like you have the support with other commissioners?
I mean,
Go ahead.
yeah, I know that some commissioners are there and they know who they are. I can nominate Barbara Langdon, and I mean there are, and I don't want to nominalize all of them, but I think um, one of the things is to listen to each other and look at the facts and the needs of the city. And I think everybody would be drawing the same conclusion. But we have to work this us together, honestly. And I think that that would be a successful uh, venue for this. And I'm confident that the commissioners, I personally know all of them because of various involvements, and I think all of them, they have the capability to listen. The problem of the past is that we haven't brought all the data and say, here it is, what the really citizen of Northport need right now, correct? I mean, it's the roads. And see, this, what is this? Is a want, the War Mineral Spring, this ultra development. And that's what we have to separate, wants versus the needs. I'm not saying I want to develop that, but do I have the resources? No, because I have these needs that I have to take care. Putting that perspective, I think that they will listen, and respectfully, we might disagree from time to time, but I think they will get the 3-2 vote. I personally think that they will.
Okay. So I've been, as a realtor, along with a show host, along with somebody who's been active in the community, far beyond anything I ever imagined. Truthfully, I've run into people that live up in the Northport Welland Park area, and one of my pet peeves is the disownership that people display because they have been misled, truthfully. And I'm going to say this because it's factual. Okay, been part of it, seen it, and corrected it. I know based on talking with you at your level of education, you're going to understand exactly what I'm saying without question. Okay, the people are concerned that live there because they have been told and sold a bill of goods that are not correct, that their home value will drop if the city of Northport is put on their envelope. And I've heard this over and over and over again. And I just want you as a representative of that area, because you live there, and if you do win, you're going to be a candidate. You're not going to be a candidate. You're going to be a District 5 representative. But can you reassure people that from a political standpoint, that truthfully, appraisers don't work that way?
Yeah, well, you know better than me, John, that look at the Huron Creek. Yeah, you have skyrocketing values, correct, in that neighborhood next to City Hall. So definitely that's the reality. It's that it doesn't matter what the envelope says. And as you said, if it has my street address and says one versus the other, it still goes to the same street, the same owner. So, but yeah, you are right on that one. Yeah.
And truthfully, the funny thing is when I say that to them, they're like, nope, we're they told us, and my first answer to them, and this is more me than you, but you can kind of solidify this, is that you live in Northport now, and your home values are climbing through the roof, and I've sold homes up there and seen $100,000 gain in less than 6 months. And you can't even do that in the stock market today. Okay. So unless you're just maybe lucky like Nancy Pelosi is and buys the right stock. But, it's all these things, you have to kind of joke and laugh about them, because the realization that the tax dollars that are there, the focus in that area right now, I've got to tell you, there's more energy, positive energy happening in the Northport Welland Park West Villages area than we've had in a long time. And that was like slated to happen back in 2008, when that movement was a lot different. The vision was a lot different. Those homes that are there now, they were slated to be $1 million homes back then, and they weren't by Lennar. They were totally different. And in fact, the plot of land was laid out totally different. But now they're $1 million homes, and you guys are side by side, and things are looking a little different. But what would you do different there or would your focus be just there as a city commissioner?
There, where in Wallen Park?
In your district, you're going to be commissioner of the whole city, but
yeah.
That's not joking, because every commissioner kind of has their issues in different locations throughout the city. You're not going to be any different, but I'm not thinking that you're going to favor one over the other. So I don't want you to get set up that way, because I think truly anybody who dares to run and dares to take this position, man, it's not an easy gig. You had to come on this show, and two, you had to answer questions to your naysayers out there. It's easy to answer questions to people who like you. So what would be your focus? I mean, I know we talked about infrastructure and things like that, but that's recent. That's truly in the last 8 days that all changed to a dramatic change, a really dramatic change. What would have been your focus 8 days ago? What would have been like a hot button for you 8 days ago, pre-storm?
I'm going to try to put you here. My priority were still the infrastructure, exactly what I said. We are structured, so it's nothing.
Right there. Go ahead.
Prioritize needed infrastructure. Price Boulevard for construction. This was printed before. This was mailed before the hurricane. So I haven't changed. It's just that the reality sink in more now.
Yeah,
I'm consistent, and I'm not saying I didn't. I pray they never will have face any storms like that, and nobody on this earth. However, this showed that there are some needs there that we have to be serious and prioritize.
Let's see. I think I may have asked this one. I did ask that one. I'm just going down because Mix Gigi, I don't know who that is. Maybe you do. And she's saying I'm not putting enough questions up, but I was trying to find one from her and I don't see it. English. Let's see. I'm just trying to go down through. Craig Martin. So Craig Martin, I know Craig Martin. He's been around here a long time. Wrestler, great wrestler from Northport High School. So he's been around a long time because I'm a lot older now too. And Craig, I really appreciate you watching the show. I know that we've talked about this in depth, and God bless Price Boulevard, because we've had a lot of damage sustained to that road, to those, and I don't want to call them bridges because they're not true bridges. They're water underpassages, and they got pushed beyond belief this time. I've got videos of all of that stuff, and I don't think people were truly aware of the damage that was occurring every time they rode their vehicle over a closed road. So it's actually created. And I was there when they put the dump trucks at the first bridge coming out of the station at Price, where the dump trucks and trash trucks all come out of Public Works there. And they blocked the road with 2 dump trucks, and people ignored the 2 dump trucks blocking the road and decided to come around their dump trucks and go over the road anyway. Well, evidence of what happens there is that our roads are eroding and they're harder to repair. My question isn't around that. It was just a matter of fact to point out for the listening audience that if a road is closed, it was a pet peeve of mine, because truthfully, when Price Boulevard finally gave way down by Walmart, that's also what helped flood McKimmett Park worse. And people are not aware of their surroundings, really, like a lot of us are now that 4 years of being on the air and listening to Public Works talk about it. But, what would you do different there? As far as the widening of Price, do we have to look at that project
yes.
in the waterway first and then Price Boulevard?
I mentioned that. Thank you, Craig, for your question. Yes, the city has finalized plans for 4 lanes. It's a matter of securing funding and getting quotes and start the project. And apparently it can be executed in a timely manner. The more we wait, the more the cost would be. But getting back to your question, John, is that. Uh, it was an unfortunate situation, but brought some good information that we have to design, and this might send to the drawing board the water passages. This we call them bridges, but technically, as you said, they were underwater canals. We probably where we have the most vulnerable and the highest flows, which produce erosion. To have those kind of designs which look more like bridges, probably elevated. I'm not saying I'm not a civil engineer, but looking at how they failed, uh, that will direct the design, because that's the way engineering works. You learn from mistakes and then you may implement. And this is the time to do that, because it's the most cost effective to do the things. And I'm not advocating for putting bridges all over, but where they might be needed, I might not know. But along with the Price Boulevard, I remember talking to a specific person one day on Rice Boulevard, which is intersecting. And that's another question which I would like to ask for that project, because with the widening, I don't know all the intersection, how people can get on the road from the neighborhood streets. And one of the question was that with the current situation, they cannot get on Price Boulevard if it's a high hour traffic. And I would like to make sure that whatever plans, that's an unanswered question. I'm kind of asking now on the air, are we prepared to handle those situations so we don't implement anything that would be deterrent to the people to feed into the major four lanes road? Yeah.
So there's several questions here, and I'm going to put them up, and I'm not trying to sabotage the conversation. I don't know what these I'm going to put them up there just so you can see them. If it's something that sincerely is nothing that pertains to you, then answer it appropriately. The first one, how many community posts have you put on social media? By William English. I really didn't look. And I'm going to preface this by saying, when you and I talked earlier today, you referenced, do we have any questions preemptively?
I did ask you. I said, do you have any?
No,
I know.
These are
I know William English, and I have a lot of respect for him. I just want to make a disclaimer, because I have not been a Facebook user till I entered the campaign. So the way I did it, I created a web page, a personal web page, which is public, and put on there. I personally thought that the best way to spend my time is not to go and put all of this throughout the other communities. Anybody has access to this, and they can share it on any platform, regardless. So I did post on my, everybody's invited to look at my website or my web page, the Facebook page, and I'm trying to be bringing the information there. So I met with William one day for coffee, and this was prior to even engaging too much on Facebook. And I know that I apologize to everybody if I cannot meet everybody's webpage, Facebook needs, but I personally prefer to talk to people directly, not on Facebook, because I think we can get more things done. I'm a problem solver. I'm not a Facebook politician. And even today when I ask you, I said, how do you get on Facebook? I know to use it, but I find like YouTube, if I have something important that the people I want, I will go and put it on YouTube because it's kind of, you don't have to have a password, you send a link, you create what it's easy for the people. Now I did the Facebook because everybody told me, you have to be on Facebook if you're not. So that's, but is this a weakness? I don't think so, because I would put on YouTube where any person, even if they don't have a Facebook, can get access to information.
So we'll go to this one. This one I'm not sure, so I don't know anything about this. Is Mr. Dobrin part of an ongoing civil suit against a city commissioner?
So let's put it this simple. I am a citizen of United States since 1988. I pledge to defend the Constitution and obey the laws of this land, and I'll do so till the end of my life. If someone does something which is illegal, he has to be responsible. We are talking about responsible government. John, I don't want anybody to drop in. The laws of Florida are very clear. If I pass by your door or your office and your door is closed, and I stay there in front to listen what you say on the phone, by the law of Florida, that's punishable. That's very clear, the interception of communication. So there was an act of a commissioner who has participated in a meeting which was not invited to, was not a public meeting, and that's the course of that litigation. Hopefully they will put to bed and we move on. But we all have to be responsible to each other. And first of all, to respect. Nobody's above the law. So that's, although the ethic commission doesn't act only if you are bribed or take money, ethics is more than that. It doesn't matter if I took $100 from someone. I mean, it matters to me. I will never do that. But it matters if someone intercepts communication. That's totally, and that's all the core of the civil suit. Hopefully we'll put it to bed. One of the parties has settled, and hopefully the right thing will be done for this one as well.
And I'm going to throw this one up just because it was from Mix Gigi. What does the Welland Park home values have to do with the election? It really doesn't. The point wasn't that it had anything to do with the election. The point was a lot of people got misleading information that actually, if they lived in the city of Northport, that their home values would drop. That's a fact. That's not an issue. That isn't part of the election. I was just pointing out with Victor because he is an intelligent guy. He knows what he's talking about as far as the home values. And he also knows that he lives in the city of Northport. That's why he's able to run for commission in the city of Northport.
John, I never said that I'm not part of the city of North. I knew very clearly.
I didn't infer that. That's not what I was inferring.
So just to put that to, that's not the subject of this. But you know where this started? The problem was that it started with the developers not being honest and putting in their advertisement. And when the people buy, they think that they buy in one versus another location. And that's, you are in that branch and you know that you have your code of ethics. You wouldn't tell someone that buys in Northport that they buy in Tampa.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said that you would not tell someone who buys in Northport that they buy in Fort Myers, for example.
No. And unfortunately, in answering her, I found it to just, it wasn't, and that was probably the only segment of the show that wasn't really about election. It was more about the understanding of home value not being associated with the word Venice on your mailing address. You live in Northport, that home value is going to rise because that area supports itself. That's really what that was.
Yeah. Now, you know that Northport is pretty uniform. I have been virtually in all the neighborhoods. It's a very nice, I like the nature, I like the quietness and so forth. It becomes a little bit too busy for many input from many messages from residents. However, we know that there are different bigger cities that they have neighborhood to neighborhood, the values depend on various considerations, and that's a reality. Here was more like uh, another cause for that. People wanted not to change their, documents and stuff like that. But I think that we don't have to discuss that right now.
No, it's real. And you know what? I'm glad we're just having a friendly moment where
Mhm.
it. This is not about election, but this is truly about where people live. You're trying to embrace where you live. Uh, that's why you're running for a commission. You wouldn't do this if you didn't want to be part of the system and try to give your constituents in your area a voice too. We all have to keep that in mind. I've got people that come on my show that know I don't agree with them, uh, but I will interview them. I will treat them fair. I've asked tough questions of you. I really appreciate you sticking to your guns and answering them, and really trying to give people something to watch and share within our community. I think it's a big thing that we probably should do this again. And I'd love to do it again with you. And just like I would love to do it again with your competition, Phil Stokes. I have no problem interviewing you both again prior to the election. I wouldn't even mind getting you both on at the same time, so we can hammer some of these things out. And I could just promise you I'd be fair about that too. And I know Phil knows that. When he got done with the show, he's like, "Holy cow, that was you! You made me go through the ringer." So the good news is you went through the ringer. You answered questions. People need to listen to these interviews. They need to make their mind up in a really intelligent way. We need good candidates. I think you guys are both good people. I don't have ill will towards any of you. I've met a couple of your constituents that work at STC, and she couldn't sing your praises any higher. But people need to understand that voting is a very important thing, and that we need to encourage citizens across the board to be part of the voting system, because it is vital for us as a city to be recognized all the way up into Tallahassee, all the way into the federal side of things. They pay attention to that huge. What are you doing now to encourage new voters to get out and vote? What are you doing to really kind of push that envelope a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's not a secret. For a few months, I knocked indoor virtually all of the parts of the city, and I asked people who are not registered to vote. It's important. It's our city. How can we stay on the sidelines and complain that we don't have that and that if we don't even try to put responsible people in place? And the only way you can is to understand what they stand for and how are they connected. Are they part of the establishment? I am not. Look at my financial statements. I am not, and I'm not playing the games. I am here as an authentic person, dedicated for the common good. And the way I encourage people, I use any possibilities. That's why I even went on Facebook to try to persuade people to know that there is something at stake. We have a chance to shift a little bit the direction the commission thinks about the needs and wants of and prioritize them. There is a need to understand that we face challenging issues because of irresponsibility, and if we can eliminate that, we can secure together a very uh, good city, which is sustainable and good for everybody from all points of view. Only that way, by encouraging everybody to vote, go out and vote, uh, but try to understand who is running for the most important things, which is responsible government. My opponent, I would say, he's taking the status quo. He's funded the status quo. I am taking the grassroots, and I want people to believe me because this is who I am. I was raised by people who believed and had faith, ethically uncompromised. And I am lucky, one of those people lucky who can put all his time for the common good. And lucky because I work hard, but also that I had the opportunities. Because otherwise, if I wouldn't be in America, I would probably still working in my former country. So I appreciate all, your show. I encourage people to vote for me. I'm for the change, for the common good, and you have all my energy, my skills, my intelligence, my experience. And by the way, there is nobody there who has the experience in government. And I didn't want to put all the commissions I am in, from construction, uh, contractor licensing examining board, or environmental, or taking the West Villages. I'm the only homeowner who represented the people in that board, whereas hundreds of millions of dollars we approved for putting infrastructure and so forth. And you can go and ask people in West Villages, have I been a responsible supervisor? And you'll get the answer there. That's my track record. This is who I am. I'm fighting for the people needs, not for the establishment. We can have a successful cooperation with developer and be partners, but we have to take care of people first.
Well, listen, I appreciate you saying an extra 31 minutes. And I did that live on the air. But I'm going to work out a date with both of you. I would love to have never done a live debate on the air before. Done a lot of things on the air that I never thought I was going to do. But you know what? I think because of the scenarios that are playing out, we only have really true one vote because we don't have two seats really running this time because Mayor Pete is in the driver's seat right now. So I think unique times present unique opportunities, and I think that you, I, and Phil will work out a date. I figure I have your commitment already because you haven't said no. But I would love to get you guys on at the same time and maybe hammer some things out.
Okay.
All right, my friend. Well, I appreciate
you very much.
Yep, and thank you so much.
By the way, I just want to know everybody that I'm sorry for all the pain we had to go through, and I know that there was lots of suffering. And again, the city has information. I put on my Facebook as well. Get help. There are sources, and
you put the resources. That was awesome. I saw that.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm just going to remind people and I was on the air a lot more than I ever projected in my lifetime to be on the air during a crisis in my own town and surrounding areas that I love. Everybody needs to kind of step back from this. You can make decisions. You can be frustrated by the moments, but there are a lot of people, and I've said this over and over again, there are a lot of good people doing great things. There are a lot of good people going over and beyond for not just our community, but so many others. And when you wake up in the morning, the only way I get started is I bear the brunt of knowing I didn't get hit as hard as everybody else, but I just go out and I volunteer and take on more. Please find a senior that is having difficulty. Find out if they've got insurance. If they don't, get them some assistance by getting them to STC or any of the venues out there that are hosting these FEMA educationals and that are sitting down and walking them through. Anybody who doesn't have insurance, don't fear not having it. Fear not finding out how you can get help. That's what you should fear, because there's a lot of help. There's a lot of money flowing, and you just have to find and connect with the right resources. There isn't anybody that's in our town right now that doesn't care about what's happening. Victor, Phil, all of the commissioners. I got to tell you, in talking with our command center during and after this whole tragedy in our town, I have more respect for everyone. And I think anybody who wants to be critical, they can. But I think you need to keep it in check. I think what you do is address it like a professional. You keep things going forward, and you can talk to people. But I think at some point, after everything they've been through, and they've been at the command center, not at home, that's a problem. They've been at the command center and not at home. Commissioners have been out on the streets talking to people and not where they need to be at their homes a lot of times. So if you don't think people are going the extra mile, if you don't think that people are here to care, go to sleep tonight, wake up with a new thought in your head, find the resources, find a way to get yourself back on your feet. We're going to be Northport proud, Northport strong. And I got to tell you, I think the whole state of Florida and the rest of the United States that's down here, I've met people from all over the place. I've been on the road even today, talking to different representatives, getting answers, getting help for other people. If we all did that, man, we'd have a great city and surrounding cities. And I know that there are people out there doing it. Victor has posted stuff. Phil's posted stuff. The city of Northport is all over this. We've got great leadership. But keep in mind the word thank you to anyone helping out right now goes a long way. And Victor, I just want to say thanks for being on the air. I appreciate you taking your time out. I'll set up the next date. I'll get some notice out to everybody. And listen, we'll have a shootout at the OK Corral right here in Northport. How about that?
Okay.
All right, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Thanks to the listening audience. I appreciate you guys sticking around so long, and I appreciate the questions. Have a great day, and we'll see you on Friday. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.